Hi, fourth grade. We are here for chapter 34 of the Aurora County All-Stars. We are in a very exciting moment. The end of chapter 33, House realized his arm was no longer able to pitch, and the last sentence was, he told no one. So it sounds like he's not going to be able to pitch this last inning, and no one on the team is aware. So we will find out what happens next. Chapter 34 starts off with a quote by the Los Angeles Dodgers announcer Vin Scully, calling Sandy Koufax's 1965 perfect game. The quote is, "A lot of people in the ballpark now are starting to see the pitches with their hearts." Okay, here we go. House faced the heat of the Redbug order in the top of the ninth inning. Larry, Curly, and Mo Fortin, triplets. All of them power hitters. "You okay?" asked Doc McCree. House nodded and shook out his arm gently. The pain radiated from his shoulder to his fingertips, but it was worst in his elbow. He checked it for color. Not black, yet. "I can do it." He tried not to cringe as he flexed his elbow. "Just a few more pitches," said his father. "Then you rest that arm." "Yes, sir," said House. He would be only too glad to rest it. "Come on, House," sang Honey. Eudora Welty panted and wagged her tail. House smiled at his sister from behind his sunglasses, took a deep breath, and trotted out to the mound. "The pitcher's mound is throbbing with action," yelled Finesse. House glanced her way and shook his head. He didn't bother with throwing the ball around the bases or warming up with Ruby. He saved every inch of his arm he could. "I'm ready," he said to the umpire. "Batter up," called Dr. Dan. Larry Fortin stepped into the batter's box and grinned at House. House gritted his teeth, got his signal from Ruby, and delivered the pitch through his pain. "Gah!" he cried. Larry hit the ball, a blooper, into the infield. House scooped it up, but he couldn't fire it off to Wilkie, so Larry made it to first base. That's all right," yelled the fans and the team. "Hang on, House, hang on." Curly popped a fly to Klebo. Klebo caught it like it was a baby falling out of the sky, with a sweep back of his glove and a bow. All-Star fans cheered wildly. House could hardly remember the pitch. He wanted to cry with the pain. And that's when Mo strode to the plate with the opportunity to put the Redbugs so far ahead they'd be untouchable. House was dizzy with pain. Ruby signaled slow balls, but House shook her off. He pulled Sandy Koufax to the front of his mind, and he didn't let him go. "Look for me in every atom that you see." House closed his eyes and saw Sandy in his wind-up delivery follow through. He saw his mother singing the symphony song as she brought in the sheets on a brilliant summer day. He saw Mr. Norwood Boyd in his bed, breathing his last in the first breath of day. He saw these things more clearly than he saw home plate. "Be with me." He sent the message out into the universe. He dug in his heel, reared backward onto his left leg, lifted his right leg high, pulled back his left arm, gave a loud grunt, and let himself pitch full out. Mo swung. "Oomph!" said Ruby as she caught the ball. "It's in there!" screamed Finesse. "Strike one!" called Dr. Dan. House would not allow himself to think about his arm. Again, he pulled his vision to mind and threw on instinct before he could think of anything else. "Strike two!" called Dr. Dan. Fans rose, their voices broke as they cheered. House was ahead in the count. No ball, 2 strikes. One more strike and the All-Stars were back in the game. House groaned loudly with the effort of his next pitch. He heaved it out, he let it go. And his arm let go too. He was done in. The fans and the ball players held their breaths. The pitch seemed to float in slow motion across the plate as Mo Fortin swung his bat clean and clear through the strike zone. As the pine made contact with the leather and the baseball sailed through the air over House's head, over Arnold's head in right field, and over the heads of the tombstones in the Methodist cemetery, where it came to rest on the grave of Anton Land. "It's gone!" Finesse wailed. "A 2-run homer!" Red Bug fans went wild. The summer sun blazed out from behind the last of the morning's clouds, as if on cue. Curly and Mo rounded the bases like they were on fire. The score was 8-6, Redbugs. Clebo threw his glove to the ground with a disgusted shout, then picked it up with a resigned sigh and trotted to the pitcher's mound. He clapped House on the right shoulder. "I've got it, House." House couldn't argue. "Thanks." He ran off the field to ball players on both teams, slapping him on the back. "Good game, House," they said. "And not a problem, House. We'll get 'em." Clebo pitched the next 3 batters, and even without a shortstop, the All-Stars delivered. Mikey McBrayer hit a duck snort into the short outfield and got on first, but the next 2 batters popped out, one to Clebo and one to Ned in center field. The side was retired, and the All-Stars walked off the field facing an uphill battle to win the game in the bottom of the 9th. The batting order coming up was a tough one for the All-Stars. Wilkie, who couldn't see well enough to get a hit, Arnold Hindman, who had a penchant for popping out, and Ruby Lavender, who was, well, a girl. "Game's over," murmured Clebo. He trudged to the All-Stars bench. That's the end of chapter 34. So 4th grade. The All-Stars are in a tough spot. They're losing by 2 runs. House seems completely toast. Sounds like his arm is done. And we'll see if Wilkie and Arnold and Ruby can pull off some good hits and maybe score a couple runs to tie it back up again. Things are not looking great, but we are right at the height of the action. This is the climax of the story, and it's also right at the end of the book. There's so much tension in this moment. I'll see you next time for chapter 35. Bye, 4th grade.